Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Let's take a look at the top business stories. Big setback to government's disinvestment plans. BPCL taken on the divestment queue after just one bidder remained in the race. Government to relook into process and come up with fresh plans. Market ends marginally lower amid volatility. Sensex snaps two-day gaining streak. Nifty below 16,250 mark. FMCG gains. Realty, PSU banks drag. Rupee closes at a new all-time low on back of higher oil prices and China recession fears. Rupee falls by 16 paise to 77.6 against the dollar. In a move that could hit more than 40 crore Indian gamers, GST on online gaming is all set to be hiked to 28%. A group of state finance ministers today proposed that online gaming be taxed at par with gambling and horse racing. In a move expected to hit the nascent online gaming industry in India, a group of state finance ministers has proposed that GST be hiked to the highest slab of 28%. For more information, let's go live to Karishma Asudani. Karishma, take us through the latest coming in.
Well, Abha, you're absolutely right. The word that is coming in is the 28% GST that is going to be on skill gaming and chance gaming both. Now, we do have some information that's on the taxation base that GOM has prepared and will be submitting to the GST Council. Now, the GOM, after today's meeting and in consideration of Fitment Committee's view, has decided that tax is to be levied when it comes to online gaming on the entire face value or the bet amount that you call instead of the net value. When it comes to casinos, they're of the view that it should be levied on the amount paid at the entry point, that is while purchasing the chips, and not on every betting transaction. For horse racing, the government is clear that they'd like to keep it at 28% on the entire betting amount. The state governments are also of the view that these decisions do not really impact state revenue by a larger margin, because you see casinos and online gaming, in fact, even when they're increased to 28%, have no big impact on the revenue because they're not legal. These activities are mostly banned in various states. So only after it goes to GST Council, a word will be coming, but definitely not a good news for the industry.
All right, Karishma, thanks for bringing us the latest on that front. The Patanjali Group has begun the much-awaited integration of subsidiary Ruchi Soya with itself. Ruchi Soya has been renamed Patanjali Foods and will be taking over the food business of Baba Ramdev-owned Patanjali Ayurved for a sum total of 690 crore rupees. The company's share hit the upper circuit of 10% today, surging 108 rupees to 1,192 rupees on the NSE. The recently concluded FPO of Ruchi Soya had been priced at 650 rupees. My colleague Sakshi Batra spoke exclusively to Baba Ramdev and Sanjeev Asthana, the CEO of Ruchi Soya.
Swamiji, first I would like to speak to you about the broad contours of this agreement. हमारे सभी दर्शकों को ये समझाइए कि इस डील के बाद किस तरीके की अपॉर्चुनिटीज कंपनीज के लिए डेवलप होंगी, क्या सिनर्जीज होंगे इस एक्विजिशन के बाद.
तो आज की इस बिजनेस टुडे में 10 ब्रेकिंग्स यदि बोलें तो 690 करोड़ में ये जो इसका अमाउंट बोले तो 4,174 करोड़ रुपए का ये बिजनेस हमने रुचि सोया को देने के लिए आज बोर्ड मीटिंग में हमने इसको अनुमति दी है. दूसरी बात, इसका जो फ्यूचर है बहुत बड़ा है. माने अगले साल तो 5,000 करोड़ प्लस का हमारा है ही. आप यदि एक एक का मार्केट साइज देखेंगे, जो हमने 8 वर्टिकल और 536 हमने इसके अंदर SKUs दिए, इसका मार्केट साइज होगा कम से कम 5 लाख करोड़ रुपए का. लेकिन पतंजलि फूड्स नाम आने के बाद में एक वर्ल्ड में नया कीर्तिमान बनेगा, एक वर्ल्ड ब्रांड बनाएंगे हम इसको, फूड का, FMCG का, एग्रीकल्चर का. साक्षी,
फिलहाल जो ये वैल्यूएशंस की बात हुई है, ये वैल्यूएशन कैसे अराइव हुई है, इसके बारे में थोड़ा हमारे दर्शकों को बताएं.
बिल्कुल. सो ये जो बेसिक प्रोसेस है, इट्स अंडर द स्लम सेल एग्रीमेंट व्हिच इज द मोस्ट एफिशिएंट एंड द कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव वे टू ट्रांसफर अ बिजनेस. And so we have gone through the compliance process. Basic idea being that all the assets at the depreciated value and all the inventory that the businesses hold without any liabilities of the past. So none of the liabilities which Patanjali may have had, none of that comes to Ruchi Soya.
अस्थाना जी, एक और सवाल मेरा आपसे था आखिर में मैं आपसे जानना चाहती हूँ, इस एक्विजिशन के बाद अब आपका जो प्रोडक्ट मिक्स है और जो रेवेन्यू मिक्स है वो अब आगे जाते हुए कैसे दिखेगा, और क्या और रेगुलेटरी अप्रूवल्स की जरूरत है अभी शेयर होल्डर्स के बाद, कितना और समय लग सकता है?
तो इसमें मेरे अनुमान है कि 2 महीने से ज्यादा नहीं लगेगा। शेयर अप्रूवल में ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा, और उसके बाद जो रेगुलेटरी अप्रूवल्स का कोई ऐसा कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी नहीं है, लेकिन रिक्वायरमेंट है। तो जो सारा रिक्वायरमेंट हमको करना ही है, उसमें करीब 2 महीने का अनुमान है कि हम लोग कर लेंगे। लेकिन आपका जो आपने बताया कि प्रोडक्ट मिक्स का है, वो बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है। सो अभी हमारा जैसे प्रोपोर्शन ऑफ फूड एफएमसीजी का जो था, वो कुल अबाउट 8% था। वो इमीडिएटली फूड बिजनेस के एक्विजिशन से 20% हो जाएगा ऑफ द प्रोपोर्शन ऑफ द रेवेन्यू। और प्रोग्रेसिवली टारगेट हमारा क्लियर कट ये है, और जो कि इंटरनली डिस्कशन हुआ है, स्वामी जी का एक प्रकार से एक विजन क्लैरिटी है कि हमको 50% रेवेन्यू जो है हमको फूड एफएमसीजी से बिल्ड करना है। तो उसकी तरफ वी कंटिन्यू टू वर्क, और 5 years में वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग दिस कंपनी विल बी वे लार्जर देन व्हाट यू करेंटली सी, बिकॉज हम लोग का कंटिन्यूअस एवरी ईयर आवर ग्रोथ रेट इज गोइंग टू बी बिटवीन 10 to 15% year on year. So we are hoping that we should be 50% FMCG portfolio, and 50% of will be comprised with the commodity brands, etc.
After trading higher for better part of the day, markets turned volatile and ended in the red to snap its two-day winning streak. Sensex gave up gains to end about 110 points lower, shutting shop at 54,208. Nifty ended at 16,240 after tumbling 19 points. Sectorally, the Nifty Realty and PSU Bank indices were the worst hit. The small and mid caps also took a beating in trade today. Among the top blue chip laggards were Powergrid, BPCL, Tech Mahindra and SBI. Meanwhile, rupee continues to decline. The currency closed at its fresh lifetime low of 76.6 against the US dollar. Unabated foreign fund outflows, surging crude oil prices and economic recovery in China taking a back seat led to the decline in the rupee. Tata Motors is well on its way to meet its target of increasing their electric vehicle sales to 1/4 of their total sales. Already the biggest player in the Indian EV market, the company's CFO, PB Balaji, revealed the plans in detail to Business Today TV's Chetan Bhutani. Listen in.
The exposure of EVs into the whole vehicle segment is about 7.5% as of now, and the plans to be 5%?
That's correct. Currently, our EV as a percentage of total sales is 7.5% for Tata Motors, and our plan is to take it to 25% in the coming by 2025.
I think the chairman or a senior member in the management commented that there are plans to make semiconductors in India. Where is that, and how much money are you allocating for that?
It is the chairman had made that statement as one of the areas that the group is looking at. Plans have not been confirmed as yet, and as and when the group is ready to make an formal announcement, but it's an area that they're looking at quite actively, and something that we should expect an announcement sooner rather than later.
India Inc. loosens its purse strings to give senior executives over 8.9% hike in salaries. According to Aeon's survey, this is the highest salary hike in 5 years. My colleague Sakshi Batra caught up with Rupang Chaudhary of Aeon. Listen in.
First, help us understand, what this hike of 8.9% really means. I can see in the highlights that it is the highest in 5 years. Could you give us more details about it?
Sure, Sakshi. So, earlier in the year, we had released our overall salary increase numbers for India Inc., which were 9.9%. And even that was the highest in the last 5 years. So not surprisingly, I think the trend that has followed that overall number is that the salary increase for top executives, the CEOs and CXOs, is also on the rise. At 8.9%, it is the highest in the last 5 years. It was 7.9% last year. Of course, during the COVID year 2020, it had fallen down to 5.1%. There was a time when many CXOs and CEOs had not taken a pay hike. They had faced pay cuts. They had also voluntarily taken pay cuts. So I think it's a accumulation of the last years with the resurgence back in the economy, the growth back on track, the fundamentals looking strong, and the very strong business sentiment that we are seeing in corporate India that has led to executives also getting a much higher pay than the last 2 years.
Absolutely. So the worst seems to be behind us, and definitely for the top bosses at India Inc. Help us understand what has come up in your survey. What's the average compensation at this level right now at? And if you could also give us some more details, if you've got to understand in terms of the fixed and the variable pay as well, and what are the the contrasts that you've seen here.
Sure. So, if we were to just break this number down, I think the first analysis is that if you look across sectors, we are seeing 3-4 sectors, have the highest increase across the CXO and CEOs. So we have technology and ITES, manufacturing, financial institutions, life sciences, consumer are the 4 sectors or 5 sectors which have given the highest increase in the range of 8 to 9%.
Verizon, one of the world's biggest communications technology companies, which has invested over $120 billion in the 5G space over the last 3 years. But what are the company's plans for India? Is there a strong 5G play? BT's tech editor Ayush Alavadi caught up with Verizon Business Chief Revenue Officer in an exclusive conversation at the Verizon 5G labs in London.
Our play in India is pretty multifold. One, we do some of our most sensitive and complex technology work in India. Technology development, product development, network development, some of our more complex systems get developed in India. We love that. For me, it's a talent play. There are very few countries in the world that have the depth of talent, the breadth of talent, the availability of talent that India has. So I'm very excited about that. Nothing I do is going to change that. So that's one. Our play in Asia Pacific more broadly is around 3 themes. The first is network as a service. So you have ambitious Indian companies, ambitious Asian companies that want to go and capture US and European markets. We want to help them. We want to tell them, hey, we'll take care of your network needs. You focus on building your business. Let the network be for us. So that's a big business. We call it network as a service. The second one is cyber. Cyber knows no boundaries. As geopolitical tensions get worse, there's more risk of cyber. We run some of the most complex cyber operations in the world. The core of that is 1/3 of the world's internet flows through our network. So we get to see things way before other people do. So cyber is a big play for us in APAC, and it's one of our largest regions in the company for cyber as well. The last one is private 5G, which is kind of the question you asked. And for us, private 5G is the power of 5G in a private setting that can be controlled by the enterprise. So whether it's ports, warehouses, venues, stadium, hospitals, we're bullish. So 3 big plays in Asia Pacific. It's a growing market for us, and we want to support ambitious Asian companies.
Where we answer all your questions on stocks, and with the markets currently volatile on the back of all that we're seeing with the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the Fed's taper view, and of course rising inflation. Let me welcome our global business editor Udayan Mukherjee, who will be answering those questions. Do continue to send them in. The number is on your screen, and we're going to be taking a select few every week. So let's start off then with our viewer queries today, and our first question is from Rohit Patel in Connecticut, USA. Listen in.
Hi Udayan, I'm Rohit Patel from USA, Connecticut. I'm holding Astral Poly at the rate of 1800, almost 275 shares. So request you to tell me, shall I hold or sell or add more? Thank you.
Well, Astral is probably one of the best PVC pipes players in the country. But I know the share price has been a bit of a disappointment, and it's come off quite a bit from its peak of 2500 now to around 1700 levels. So it's close to your purchase price. You're not losing too much money yet. But I think the last quarter's numbers, Q3 numbers were not great. There were some volume issues out there. Raw material prices too have gone up for Astral, and therefore margins too are under some degree of strain. But the fact that they're moving quite a bit of their produce or their overall revenue line from PVC to CPVC is actually a good sign for Astral in the longer term. The other thing is that they're trying to move their product line to a higher margin kind of a profile by entering newer areas like sanitary ware. So I think keeping all these things in mind, I would say that Astral Poly probably is a much better stock to own in your portfolio than compared to other peers like Finolex or Supreme Industries. I say this because the problem with Astral always has been that the valuations, because of its superior performance over the last 4 or 5 years, actually had gone up to a very significant premium. It was a stock which was trading at about 52 times FY24 earnings. But with the recent correction, it's come down to closer to 40 times. And while 40 PE is not inexpensive, I think that with the kind of growth that Astral Poly has been exhibiting, 30% plus over the last 5 years CAGR, you could probably justify prices around these levels, which is not to say that the stock will not correct more, because there is a big mid-cap correction underway and Astral Poly might fall with the rest of the market. But I think it's now beginning to approach levels where longer-term investors might find sense in owning that stock over a longer period of time, because fundamentally, despite the challenges, it continues to remain probably the best player in the PVC pipe space.
Okay, Saket Goenka also has a query. He's from Kolkata and he's looking at HDFC AMC. Listen in.
Hi Udyan, this is Saket Goenka. I had purchased 100 shares of HDFC AMC at a price of 26.50 per share. And so the share price has come down to 1850 levels now, and I have a medium-term horizon and can hold the shares for next 1.5 years. So what should I do? Shall I exit the share or I shall hold on?
Well, I've not been a very big fan of HDFC Asset Management Company, but the thing was that the performance of its funds was beginning to improve after a multi-year period. And unfortunately, now with the way the markets are moving, the performance of these equity funds will begin to get affected once again. And at the end of the day, most of these asset management companies, they are proxies of the stock market. When markets do well, some of these AMCs do well. And when markets do badly, as they are doing right now, these stocks typically tend to underperform. So the backdrop for HDFC AMC is quite weak at this point in time, and it's not helped by the fact that it has not been the most dynamic from the asset management companies stable in terms of launching new products. Its funds have not been the best performers, and it's been steadily losing market share both in equity funds and SIPs. So my sense is that it's probably not the best stock in the asset management space to own, HDFC Asset Management Company. It is a good brand name, it comes from a good stable, and the stock has halved from 3,500 to 1,700. So much of the bad news is in the price already. But given where the market is at this point in time, I think in the foreseeable future, it may still continue to struggle.
Okay, Abhirama Malela from Bengaluru is holding Indiabulls Real Estate. Let's listen in to what his question's all about.
Hello then, I'm a big fan of yours. Today I have a question about Indiabulls Real Estate. I'm holding 1,750 shares at an average of Rs 150. I've been holding it in the hope that post the merger with the Embassy Group, the company's fortunes would turn. I'm a long-term investor. Please share your views. Thank you.
No, I think your optimism is well founded, because a lot of investors were hoping that once the previous promoters of Indiabulls Real Estate had exited, Samir Gehlot, who doesn't hold anything in the company right now, and the Embassy Group actually took in post-merger, took charge of the company, the fortunes would change. But somehow the stock has not performed, and I'm very curious about the stock price performance of Indiabulls Realty. I don't know whether it's because there are still some pending payments from Samir Gehlot to Indiabulls Realty, or it's the continuing distressful news of around Indiabulls Housing Company, though the two companies have nothing to do with each other, Indiabulls Housing and Indiabulls Real Estate. But the way the other group companies continue to collapse, whether that's having some kind of collateral sentiment damage on Indiabulls Real Estate. But something is bothering the market, the way the stock has collapsed to rupees 70 and lower. So I don't know what that exact point is, because now with Embassy coming in, they actually have very significant properties and presence in Mumbai, in NCR, Delhi, and particularly in Bengaluru. So, given the kind of portfolio of projects they have, I would have expected Indiabulls Realty to have done better, but it has not, and you cannot argue with the market's wisdom beyond a point. So, fingers crossed. I'm a little surprised at the way the stock has come down, and maybe some of the recent interest rate hikes from the Reserve Bank have also impacted sentiment, because if these rate hikes are going to impact the rate-sensitive real estate recovery, then maybe that's one reason why the market's getting so worried about Indiabulls Real Estate as well. But the stock has disappointed and underperformed my expectations as well, so I can understand your concerns about where this one is going. But fundamentally, I think their project portfolio looks quite attractive to me.
Okay, quite a mixed bag we have today of stocks. Abhijit Sharma from Kolkata has bought Oro Pharma. Let's listen to the price point and what his question is.
Hi Udyan, Abhijit this side from Kolkata. I just wanted to ask about Aurobindo Pharma. I am at it at 620 rupees. Does it have any future course? How is it going to work? Can you please let me know? Thank you.
You know, it's a stock which has always looked inexpensive, but it has always flattered to deceive. And sometimes when over a period of time you begin to see that a stock has low PE multiples compared to the rest of the sector, but it refuses to outperform, it's one of two things. Either the market knows something that all of us do not, or it's a company which is ripe for some kind of a revaluation, and therefore the market, eventually you will make a lot of money from the re-rating. But the re-rating always or never seems to come for Aurobindo Pharma. People have waited years for this re-rating to happen. It's just not happened. There are two reasons, of course, why Aurobindo Pharma, despite its large size, continues to trade at maybe half of the valuation multiple of, say, a Dr. Reddy's or a Sun or a Cipla. One is, of course, they have never had very successful branded or well-known branded formulations in the Indian market, something which they're trying to correct now with the recent acquisition of the company called Veritas. They are trying to get brands into their portfolio. The other is, of course, that they have a very large US exposure, and as you well know, that the US market can be very volatile, and that is the reason why Aurobindo Pharma has always had the valuation of a fairly commodity kind of a pharma company. Like it would trade at 12 or 13 PE multiple when its peers like Cipla and Reddy would be trading at 25 to 30 PE multiple. So frankly, if you ask me, I would say that I would still remain quite skeptical despite these very low valuations, because the next couple of years I don't see great earnings growth for Aurobindo Pharma to begin with, and B, there is something in the stock price performance which makes me a bit wary about what the market's assessment is of this management and its balance sheet and its performance prospects. So I would probably be cautious on that name despite these very low valuations that it's trading at.
All right, that's all the time we have on this edition of Ask Udayan, but do continue to send in your queries. The number will come up on your screen. Udayan, thanks so much for your time today, and we look forward to another packed edition of Ask Udayan next week.